My name is Sadat Lawal. I'm currently a rising senior at Cornell University studying urban planning in the College of Architecture, Art and Planning. My Cornell experience has been one to remember. Although academically it can be rigorous, but it makes you stronger and teaches you ways to be able to adapt, but also learn at a rapid pace. And especially the people there are what I'd say made my experience more worthwhile as well. The people that you meet, how it's like a collective struggle that everybody faces together, finding yourself and also learning as much as you can and making the best out of Ithaca. Ithaca is a beautiful town and city with a lot of wonderful nature and stuff to do as well. And just having the chance to explore it with people who have the same drivers and similar interests and even come from all different pockets of the world. Like the Cornell community is not limited to just New York or United States. There's students from every pocket of the world who speak different languages that bring the elements of their culture and perspectives. So having the opportunity to learn about the world through the lens of other people has also been something that I found really valuable as well.
Terrific. And you are from New York City, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
But I was born in Ghana as well.
You were born in Ghana.
Yeah.
Very exciting. So your program is not a BR program. Your program is, can you discuss your program? Tell us what program you're part of and what does it mean?
Yeah. So my program is the Urban Regional Studies program, also known as urban planning, which focuses on cities and how the human aspect plays a role in it. It can be, we have different concentrations within it. There's real estate, there's public policy, and there's urban design. So each of those cover different facets that come with elements of creating cities and how people can manage them, and as well as living cohesively within our environment.
And your program, I used to think that your program was part of the School of Liberal Arts at Cornell, but it's not. It's actually part of the School of Architecture part.
Yes, it is.
So how does it work with faculty? Is the program mainly architecture or urban planning faculty, or are you taking courses all over Cornell? How does it work with courses and faculty?
Mm-hmm. So most of our faculty within our curriculum is within the urban planning faculty, but then the way Cornell works is that regardless of which college or major you are in, you still have freedom to take classes outside of that. So I personally am minoring in architecture and landscape architecture. So some of my classes have a blend of architecture and also landscape architecture and also real estate as well within the hotel school. And I'm also taking some art history classes and some art classes just because of that freedom that Cornell has given us. But for the most part, we'll have core classes that are tailored around our majors. And then outside of that, we can take whatever classes as we see, please.
Your landscape architecture classes are part of the School of Agriculture at Cornell, correct?
Yes.
What do you think of your landscape architecture minor?
With that, I've found it really beneficial because it's giving me a different perspective as to look at the environment around me, especially how much of a conscious effort that goes into shaping our landscape and also making the best of the built environment and making it habitable. And I feel like it applies into my urban planning and architecture background as well.
So what is your goal in your career? What are you dreaming of achieving?
It's something that I've been figuring out a lot as it's been developing as time goes by. But for the most part, I do know I want to go into designing and building large scale structures. It could be cities and campuses. And also probably, and for short term, going into like real estate development and also architecture. I do want to start my own private practice down the line, but as of now, it's just being able to come up with the different skill sets from the designing to like the implementation and financial underwriting as well. So,
and you feel that Cornell is giving you all the necessary tools to pursue that career, correct? I know that you just came back from Dallas, where you were doing an internship there. You care to talk about that internship and what did you gain from it?
Yeah. So ironically, this internship was not directly in the architecture space. It was in finance. I was working at Goldman Sachs in Dallas. Yeah. And then over there, I learned a lot, especially how the corporate setting is and the role the financial services industry plays into like the greater economy as well, especially in the real estate side of things and financing. Most projects go to banks to get loans and with loan financing. And then to be able to understand as a developer, you have to understand what risks your project poses and the feasibility of it. That would also indicate the likelihood of you getting a loan from a financing bank as well. So I feel like even as an architect and a designer or developer, this is a skill set or something that you need knowledge about as well, which I found.
Yeah, absolutely. And my understanding is that you also took some courses in finance at Cornell, right? That's what you mentioned before.
Yeah, I've taken mainly real estate courses, but not hard finance courses. Yeah.
Right. So your interest is in development and large project development, etc. Yeah. What's your mission in life though? Like, have you thought of that? Like, not necessarily just the career path, but what impact do you want to have, if any?
That is the reason why I actually led it towards development and construction and design was because, so back when I was in Ghana, I went to prep school in Ghana. I realized there's a lot of like wealth disparity over there, and which was also directly went into the quality of life for some people. And then I wanted to be able to do something that I'd be able to go back to Ghana and make a positive impact, like being able to redesign the cities and making them more habitable and everything. Initially, I wanted to do civil engineering, but then things worked out in a way that that doing urban planning at Cornell was my best option rather than going to other schools and doing civil engineering. So I took up that.
So you are from Ghana, of course. When did you move to America? Did you come here as a student, or were you born in Ghana and you left shortly thereafter? What's your?
Yeah, so I was born in Ghana when I was, and when I was 5, I moved to the United States. When I was 9, I went back to school in Ghana and moved back my sophomore year of high school, and then I've been here. Yeah.
So, and the reason why you went back to Ghana was because your parents wanted you to get Ghanaian experience, I guess, grow up as a, right. The interesting about Ghana is that it's, in terms of entrepreneurship, it's considered to be one of the most developed countries of, I guess, West Africa, right? Yeah. In comparison to Nigeria, which is next door, it's just like, it's like a Western country, basically.
Yeah.
And it feels like a lot of people, when they think of development of Ghana, they think of entrepreneurship. What's the place of urban planning in that plan, I guess, for development?
Yeah, I'd say urban planning has a big role, especially since Ghana's population is booming, even from immigration as well. So at the new challenge that a lot of cities in the urban South would have to face is managing expansion in a more eco-conscious way as well. So it would be the role of the urban planners to be able to manage the influx of migrants and also the population boom in a way that wouldn't damage the built environment and wouldn't cause strain on infrastructure, but also being able to build more efficiently without having to trade off for quality or even like price control as well.
So you love your program, obviously, but what are the things that you don't like about it? What are some criticisms that you have?
Let me see. That was something I'd have to think deeply on. But then I would say it can just get rigorous sometimes. That's all I can say. But then it kind of pays off in the long run, because even outside of school, I'd realized that I'm able to take on more work because of the amount of work that I've been able to take on in the past, and just makes you more conscious of your time and just use your time wisely as well. And just like it forces you to work efficiently. So that's.
And what are the things that you like the most about the program compared to perhaps other programs, if you had any experiences in other programs, from friends, conversations, etc.?
I would say the exposure it gives me, because the nature of the program, I'm learning a lot about history and also seeing stuff that I tend to overlook, like why buildings are a certain way, or why certain things are placed in certain areas, and also just like the history of America as well and the world. and how architecture has evolved into what it is now.
The courses that you're taking at the School of Hospitality, what is it called? School of Hotel Studies or Hospitality Studies? Or the
Hospitality.
Yeah. Can you talk about that? What courses are you taking there? How are they fitting in your overall experience?
So I've taken hotel development and planning process and real estate development process. My favorite class out of the two would be real estate development process because it gives you an overview of the development life cycle from the financing all the way up to the construction and completion of the project.
Is it the course is specifically designed to address hotel development or any project?
No, any project in general. Yeah. So we go from like the fundraising side to and also getting equity to the design. We actually get to, and then the way the class is framed is like in a case format. So you're actually doing a mock development from the acquisition of land to seeking financing, to actually designing the project on your own, and then to also pitching it and then looking over how you'd be able to construct it and implement it as well. So I'd say it's something that's insightful. And next semester, I'm also taking real estate financing, just so to go over modeling and then how loans and the paybacks and all of that would look like, and just give you a more better understanding of how that works.
Perfect. So when you were a high school student, were you between architecture and what you're doing now, or were you clear that this is what you wanted to pursue? Architecture, I guess, was never part of the...
Yeah. The funny thing was that when I was younger, I actually think I didn't do architecture because I thought I couldn't draw. So then I kind of wrote it off and I said, okay, I'm going to do civil engineering. But then I applied everywhere else for civil engineering, NYU, Northeastern, the Franklin, Marshall, a whole bunch of other schools, civil engineering. I got that position. And then Cornell was urban planning. And then I liked the campus a lot from when I visited. The food was great and everything was beautiful. And then also it was actually the more financially wise decision to take. So then I ended up going to Cornell for urban planning. And over there is that I'd taken my first landscape architecture studio in the spring of my freshman year. And then I had my friends in architecture would just help me like just understand like the whole design process and everything. And then I realized this architecture is actually is not as hard that I thought, that to a level that I thought I would be able to. Probably if I put in the time, and I could also teach myself to understand and also learn how to use these tools as well. So when the pandemic happened, I had a lot of free time. So I used that time to teach myself Rhino and SketchUp and actually go into depth to learn more about the field and everything. And through that, I was able to gather like a collection of work. And then I applied for an internship at Work AC, which I ended up interning there last summer.
How was that?
I'd say that was one of my favorite summers, like one of the most eye-opening summers I've experienced so far.
Where was the internship again?
Work AC. Yeah.
What kind of firm is this?
It's a boutique architecture firm. It's run by Amal Andral. She's the former dean of Columbia GSAP.
Okay, and and what kinds of projects did you work on? Yeah.
I built a model for a new project they were working on, the River House. And then I also did an externship for them during the fall break up until mid-spring semester, where I was working on elevation and floor plans for the same model that I had built prior to that. And then I'd also got to just see how every different project people were working on. They're currently working on the Beirut Museum of Art as well. So I got to see how that was, see all the models and then the initial drawings and all of that. And I just got to see like firsthand on a close level how an architecture firm works and the different workflows and getting to like know people better in the industry as well.
Okay, so you've had a interesting mix of different things in your experience, but it's a little almost too wide, right? Like, was the intent to slowly start to narrow it down and focus on something very specific, or are you still keeping your different opportunities available? Are you still considering architecture, for example, or like for grad school, or or
Yeah.
is that something that you've completely taken off your list as a career?
Oh, I am heavily considering doing architecture in grad school. As of now, I want to still explore different loosely related fields. That way, when I go back to grad school with the intention of practicing after I graduate, or later down the line, I'd be able to have more to incorporate into that field, because I feel although architecture can be singular, but then it requires the application of a knowledge and ability to incorporate different skill sets and different walks of life, because again, you have to take different users into consideration, and a lot of the time not all the users are going to be the same type of person, but having that understanding of different topics and different and knowledge of different stuff, you'd be able to apply that into your design to make sure you get the best out of what it is you're creating.
So Cornell is a beautiful campus, and Ithaca, it used to be kind of grungy, but now it's gorgeous. How important is that environment in your experience? Had been part of Cornell and that inspiring environment. How important is that?
Yeah, I'd say it's very important, because a lot of the time when, let's say, when classes are getting really hard, there's a lot of pressure. There's the beauty and the nature within Ithaca itself just gives you that escape and peace. You can go to walk on the trails, there's waterfalls, you can, even the sun, when the few days that it's sunny over there, it's actually like really beautiful to the extent it makes off for the other days that are just kind of bad. So
the snow for 6 months, that makes you appreciate the spring, right? Definitely.
yeah.
I went to college at Hobart as an undergrad, which is in Geneva. And so my first year coming from Greece, it started to snow in October, and the last snow melted in like early May. So that was a shock, but that was the best spring I've ever had,
Yeah.
you appreciate it. Terrific. So your application process, applying to Cornell, how can you describe when you applied? Were there different elements that you had to add on to the regular application? Did you have to submit a portfolio? And overall, can you describe the experience of applying?
Yeah. So when I applied I didn't have to submit a portfolio, but I did have to write a major specific essay as to why I wanted to study what I wanted to study. And then I did an interview beforehand, but for the most part, the interview was more relaxed, I'd say. A lot of the time, it's more of a conversation rather than an interview. If you're able, it's more about your ability to connect with people. That's what they're gauging for, and just to see whether you have a genuine interest in the school as well. So for the most part, just knowing what it is exactly I wanted to do at Cornell, what I wanted to get out of it, played a huge role into my application as well. And I did have, I'd say, outside from the 3 recommendations from my teachers, I had supplementary recommendations for one of my mentors and another person I interned with the summer before my junior year. Yeah, is it the summer before my senior year, I'd say. Yeah, it was at Columbia University's HES lab. So I'd say that was also helpful. And just for the most part, I'd say the best advice I can give in terms of that would just be doing your research and understanding what programs there are to be able to help you succeed. Because at the end of the day, it's more about, if you come here, are you going to be able to take on the amount of work, and also do you have the drive to be able to succeed afterward? So just being able to incorporate that within your mission and also show your true self within your application is something that goes a long way in the process.
So which schools were you considering? Which programs?
Aside from Cornell?
Aside from Cornell, yeah.
I was looking into Columbia University for civil engineering, NYU Tandon School. I was also doing civil engineering there, and Northeastern. Those are my top 3.
Yeah, I'm also a graduate of Tandon in construction, master's in construction management. So as far as your, paying for your education,
Mm.
education at tech schools tends to be a little expensive lately, and education over, as a whole. I was curious, did you apply for scholarships? Do you have any financial aid? Are you paying out of pocket? How does it work for you?
So the way Cornell works is it's 100% need based. So based on the financial information you give to the school, that's how much they're able to pay you back. The one downside is that if you get outside scholarships, it does tend to eat into the aid that they give you. But then for the most part, they do tend to meet your need as needed.
So what do you think about how expensive education is these days, though?
It is expensive, that I'll say.
Yeah. Do you have students who are having a hard time paying for their education, who are taking loans, or does Cornell pay for everybody?
Well, Cornell doesn't pay for everybody equally, that I can say. But then there are students that, yes, they do have to take out a lot of loans, and then there are some that are well off. So I think it really depends on like, it's an individual by individual basis for the most part, because across the scale, it's not everybody that struggles to meet the financial expectations of school. But then again, like there are a lot of hidden costs that also come with attending Cornell. So it varies across the board.
What are the hidden costs you're talking about?
It can be social costs, even like you're not gonna be living off the meal plan 100%. So there will be times that you'd have to get your own food, certain events that you'd have to pay for, and then just certain caveats. If you're going somewhere, you probably need new clothes. Some textbooks can be expensive as well. Your laptop might break, you're gonna have to get it fixed. Like a lot of stuff outside of that, yeah.
I think the answer is get a Wegmans card.
Yeah.
It's a lot cheaper. So as far as Ithaca, it's a relatively small town, right? And yet it feels cosmopolitan. What's your experience as a college student in Ithaca? Whenever I visit, I get the same sense I would get in Geneva, that there are the townies and there are the students.
Yeah.
What's your experience?
Yeah, I'd say there is that dynamic, but then we tend to, everybody explores the town on their own time. There's also another school, Ithaca College, right by. So I do have friends that also go to Ithaca College, and then we do have like collaborative events and stuff like that. But I'd say it's like, since Cornell's placement is right outside of Ithaca City Center, it's easily accessible. But then it also has its own bubble. So it's really up, if you want to immerse yourself in like the greater Ithaca community, you have the freedom to do so, but there are students that also choose to just stay within that bubble.
I know we spoke about some of the courses that you've taken. I'm just curious so far, which one was the most beneficial course, the course that you feel that you got the most out of and has added the most value to your toolbox?
That is something I'll have to think deeply in. But then the one course I can say off the top of my head so far is the American City. That was the first ever urban planning course I had taken coming into Cornell. It's the introductory course for my major. We learned about the history of American cities, like of American urban planning, from pre-colonial era all the way up to present day. I just learned about a lot about policies, and then just certain stuff that really tells why our current society faces its current problems, as well as why certain areas are the way they are as well. We learned about like the pitfalls and also the benefits of urban planning, and how it just gave me a certain understanding of what it is I can do to be able to not repeat the mistakes of the planners in the past, but also a better understanding of the relationship we planners play with people's livelihood as well, and also the environment around us.
Are there any skill-based courses that you found useful?
Yeah, intro to GIS, and there's one architecture class to media representation. So through that, I've learned ArcGIS, Adobe Illustrator, Rhino, and a lot of tools that I just, even my courses outside of architecture, I still apply them because it just makes the work a lot more easier for me.
Do you find that there's space for use of GIS in the internships that you've taken so far and the work that you're planning to do in the future?
Yes, most definitely, especially if I were to use just loose example, real estate. Part of your pitch is also market assessment. And then that could be the demographics of where it is you want your development to be. And like the trends within that area could be like the cost of living. It could be different competitors and all of that. Having mapping tools would play an important role in visually representing what it is you're trying to get across, especially like the market dynamics as well.
What would you say to students who are applying to schools like Cornell now? What's some advice that you would give them as far as selecting the right school for them and also for getting into the right school?
Yeah, I'd say for selecting the right school, visit during a weekday to see how it is like when students are actually going to class, not when the
So
school has.
don't go during open houses.
Yeah, go and you can get a good sense of how it is like on a regular basis, and then into getting into these schools, I just say knowing what it is you want to do at that specific school, and then understanding what resources there are in place that you can be able to take advantage of that school to make sure you get the best out of your experience, and just believing in yourself and working hard as well.